Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Justus Parrotta 1988 podcast. What I wanted to investigate was the connections between counterpoint and motor skills. This was something that I started to wonder about after studying keyboard injury preventative technique with Dr. Barbara Lister-Sink. I'm like, with counterpoint and motor skills, my thoughts are these two related in any way? So I went to Gemini and typed into the search engine, is musical counterpoint and motor skills related to each other? Or something to that effect. Here is the first article that I got. It is the Counterpoint in Eurhythmics by Dorothea Weise. It's from 2023. Here is Gemini's blurb on it. This article explores how physical counterpoint, where limbs perform independent rhythms or melodies, mirrors musical counterpoint. It argues that moving the body in opposition to a rhythm, for example, arms moving in 3/4 time while the legs walk in 4/4 time, builds neural pathways required to hear and play counterpoint. Wow. This almost sounds like dance pedagogy, which I will get into a little bit. When I began to read the article, on the second page, she began to discuss the formal transformation of music into movement with maximum precision and detail. Then she went into discussing dance, and I'm going to say something right off the bat. I actually studied ballet for 5 years, and I believe that ballet is crucial for organists with foot technique and knowing how to move at the instrument. The next quote that she brought up, that I'm going to bring up, that Dorothea mentioned, was the ability to transform musical events into movement with maximum precision. I'm going to say this right away. These quotes from Dorothea Weise, they remind me so much of Jessie Montgomery, who was discussed in the Alice Hong dissertation. Just for a refresher, here's what Alice Hong had to say about Jessie Montgomery. Miss Montgomery strongly believes that music is a physical form of art that should be physically created and physically reacted to. This advocates the notion that composers should have faculty in at least one instrument and be able to make music physically in order to communicate through music. Without this performance background, their music making comes from a purely cerebral point of view. I meant to say facility, not faculty. Sorry about that. So if you're ignoring the physical nature of music making and that there are motor skills involved when playing an instrument, it becomes a mind game. That's essentially what Alice Hong said that Jessie Montgomery was saying. The other point that I'm going to mention from Dorothea Weise has to do with counterpoint. What she says in regards to dance or stage is that counterpoint implies a relationship between both parts as a basis of what happens on stage. So example, have two ballet dancers performing on stage in a pas de deux. That's a good example, especially in terms of how the movements relate to each other. Same thing in counterpoint. The other point that I want to bring up, she mentions, is that consider it as a composition of movements into music, the score that is, and that is most frequently used for Eurhythmics. So Eurhythmics is frequently associated with Dalcroze techniques. Link to Dalcroze in the comments. And thank you, and see you in the next video on motor skills and counterpoint.